You are listening to Frankly Speaking Panthers on Tobacco Road Sports Radio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I'm looking around and I'm saying, I need to become part of a Carolina Panthers group that stays positive even in these tough times. And I'll tell you what, boy, have I found a group, the Carolina Panthers Den. It's on Facebook and you need to join today. This is a group that stays positive, has a good time, and interacts with a lot of other different Carolina Panthers fans. If you want to have a great time and talk about your team, encourage your team in a way that is done very professionally, then become a member of the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. Make sure to join today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Panthers on this Wednesday night. And oh yes, reunited Peaches and Herbs. Cam Newton's back. Ron Rivera is going to be visiting this weekend. Also, some of the assistant coaches. Oh, it's so good to be reunited. Ladies and gentlemen, want to wish you all a very, very happy Wednesday evening here on Frankly Speaking Panthers. We have a lot going on today. A lot of different groups are going to be joining us momentarily. I want to welcome every single person that's on Facebook, every single person that's on YouTube Live. Tonight, listen to this, folks. Not only are we on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, we are also coming live on Twitter and live on the Carolina Panthers Den group. So what a great, great night we have going here on Frankly Speaking Panthers. I want to ask everybody who is listening, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, please go ahead, and I ask you again, please go ahead and share this to your timeline as we have a fun, full-packed show for you. As always, we welcome every single one of you, every single Panthers fan out there to go ahead, interact, let us know you're here. We want to welcome Tom from the Carolina Panthers Den onto our show tonight. We love you out there, brother. Keep listening. And like you saw the commercial before we even started, by far one of the best groups, and I don't want to discredit any of the other Carolina Panthers groups out there because they all do a great job. But when you look at this Carolina Panthers Den group, man, they're so positive. They're so energized. And this was even before Cam came. So join the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. Now, ladies and gentlemen, lots and lots, like I said, to go over tonight, and we're going to start. I'm going ahead and pulling up. There we go. You know, it all begins this weekend. The Panthers, 5-5, host the Washington football team Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And boy, oh boy, are there a lot of storylines to talk about in this game. We are about 25 minutes away, first of all, from having Chris Couch Coach Powell, who is actually the host of Couch Coach, and he covers the Washington football team, will be joining us around 9:30 this evening to talk about this matchup between your Panthers and the Redskins. But let's get right into it, folks. Cam Newton's return to Charlotte, North Carolina, his home return. And let me explain this to you, folks. We've only watched Sam play 3 or 4 plays, tremendous plays, scored 2 touchdowns, was incredible. But even more than that, he has added a spark to this team. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what's going to happen, how he's going to play versus Washington. But if you talk about new excitement, the energy around the Charlotte area and the entire Carolina area, to be short with you, the energy, the excitement, the new life, the attitude that this one human being has brought to this team is just remarkable. It is remarkable, the energy level that everybody has in this city. And it's exciting, and it should be exciting. Now, a lot of people say, first of all, last week, what a great game. We're not going to stay on it. We're not going to hit on it. But, something was said to me today, and they said, but Larry, you beat a Arizona Cardinals team that was one of the best teams in the NFL, but they had players injured. They didn't have their starting quarterback. And I looked at that individual and I said, buddy, are you stupid? And then he goes, what do you mean am I stupid? You say Kyle Murray wasn't there. We didn't have our starting quarterback either. So let's cut the crap. We beat the team. We beat them fair and square. And on that day, we were a better team than the Arizona Cardinals. Now let's put that crap to rest and let's move on and not look back. We are 5-5. Now, the big question comes up, is Cam the same guy that left? And I'm going to answer this for you folks right now. No. And people say, what do you mean no, Larry? Hey, I'm happy as anything to have Cam back. Not only a great PR stunt, but when Cam left, he was hurt. He might be better than he was when he left, because when he left us, he was injured. He was hurt. How can you ask if he's better than when he left? Yes, he was hurt. He had an injured shoulder besides other things. He never had the opportunity to go ahead and fully heal. Now you look at Cam Newton, and Cam Newton not only is bringing the excitement, but he's healthy. Okay, he is now healthy. And people say, well, Larry, what happened in New England? You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what happened in New England, and I don't care what happened in New England. And the reason why I say that, folks, is, first of all, give credit to New England. Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches to ever coach in the NFL, and has a quarterback coach, an offensive coordinator who has been one of the best offensive coordinators in Josh McDaniels. But something didn't click between Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. And it could be a lot of things. It could be the system. It could have been the coach not getting along, not believing in it. You know what? At the end of the day, who cares? Cam Newton is in Carolina now. And that's the only thing I care about. Now, when you look into this game, and we'll talk about the keys to this upcoming game, but you look into this game, and the one thing you don't want Cam to do this upcoming game is try to do too much. We already know what Cam brings to the table. Everybody in the world knows what Cam brings to the table. But at the end of the day, you don't want him going into this game feeling like he's got to do everything to win this game. He has a bunch of weapons on this team, a bunch of weapons. And everybody knows about Christian McCaffrey, but look at Chuba Hubbard getting some touches last week. Amir Abdullah, unbelievable, and he catches the ball like McCaffrey out of the backfield. We got Christian McCaffrey, who's an all-pro, and a good, solid backup with this. We have depth at the running back position. When was the last time we said we have depth at the running back position? Just incredible, folks. Incredible. But Cam just needs to come in, call the plays that he's comfortable with, just like we talked about P.J. Walker, who's did a fabulous job and proved to everybody in the Carolina area that he is the solid backup that we need on this team. You make the game plan conducive to Cam. We know what Cam brings with his legs. We know what Cam brings with his arm, but he's only had a week now to get the timing down with these receivers. He has amazing receivers, and he will use every receiver on this team. Don't be surprised if you see a Tommy Tremble on Ian Thomas break out this weekend with Cam as the quarterback, utilizing his tight ends. Also, we know what Terrence Marshall, who hasn't been used much, brings to the table. DJ Moore. I mean, what can you say about DJ Moore? And look for some opportunities for Robbie Anderson. The other thing that we talked about when we were playing Reunited to begin the show is it is the return of former Panthers head coach Ron Rivera, two-time NFL Coach of the Year who coached the Panthers from 2011 to 2019. Had a 76-63-1 record with the Panthers. He made the playoffs, was 3-4 in the playoffs, and he still currently is the highest winning percentage of any coach that has ever coached the Carolina Panthers. So, and he also has, I believe they said, up to 15 assistant coaches that were at one time on this Carolina Panthers staff. So a big reunion for a lot of people, besides just Cam Newton, which is obviously the biggest, but a lot going on for reunions this weekend in Carolina. Now, what people don't realize is this game has a significant, and I say significant meaning. People go, what are you talking about, Larry? The season just started. No, folks. The season is over half over. We are 5-5. You know what that means? We have 7 games left, and if the season ended today, we are in the playoffs. We have the Saints, who are a half game above us for that number 2 spot. We are in the 3rd spot, controlling our own destiny right now. And, when you look at, this game, it's not only important for the Panthers, it's important for the Redskins, because if Carolina goes in here and beats up on Washington, it pretty much can knock them out of any playoff contention the rest of the year. Also, we said that it could make a tighter spot for the Panthers, but also let me throw something at you, folks. And I don't like looking usually too far ahead in the future. But when we come back from a quick station break, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about, actually, we got 2 more minutes. We'll talk about it now. Thank you, sir. Well, we're going to go ahead and hit on now, but this also has implications for the NFC South. The Carolina Panthers are the only team in the NFC South that is 3-0 in division play. Now they beat the Buccaneers, they beat the Falcons, and they have beaten the Saints. All 3 of the games they have played in the division, they have won. Now, this isn't a division game, but it's still an important game. And let me explain why. I don't know if everybody realizes it, but when you look at the win column, or let's even look at the loss column, right now, the Carolina Panthers are 1.5 games behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the NFC South. And people go, come on, Larry. Well, let me explain this. If they could win the next 4 games, and I hate doing this where I'm hypothetical, but they got some games with Cam, with McCaffrey healthy, that they should be able to win the next 4 games. I don't want to lie, but we thought that would happen earlier in the season, and it hasn't. But let's just say hypothetically they do. The last 2 out of 3 games this season is versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1 here, 1 there. If the Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers won out besides those 2 games they play, those 2 games would be played for the NFC South, with obviously the Carolina Panthers having to win both games. But guys, when you look at it, this NFC South is still wide open. The Buccaneers are not playing real well. Unfortunately, the games this week with our division teams are not that strong. We know who we play, but you have, who is it? Atlanta is playing the Patriots, so a good chance they might lose. Carolina, we know, is playing Washington. New Orleans is playing the Eagles. So that could be a tough game. And then Tampa Bay plays the Giants. So games that are winnable, let's at least say at the least, for the teams in our division this weekend. So we need to go in, we need to hold our own, and we need to defeat the Washington football team. When we come back, we'll preview the Washington football team. And 15 minutes from now, Couch Coach Powell will be on with us to discuss the game versus the Washington Redskins. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back right after this. You are listening to Frankly Speaking Panthers on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I'm looking around and I'm saying, I need to become part of a Carolina Panthers group that stays positive even in these tough times. And I'll tell you what, boy, have I found a group, the Carolina Panthers Den. It's on Facebook and you need to join today. This is a group that stays positive, has a good time, and interacts with a lot of other different Carolina Panthers fans. If you want to have a great time and talk about your team, encourage your team in a way that is done very professionally, then become a member of the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. Make sure to join today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Panthers. What a great show so far. What a great show. And I'll say it again. We are the fastest growing Panthers internet social media show in all of the Carolina area. We're proud to be part of Tobacco Road Sports Radio as well. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitch. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We're all over the place, folks. Share this. Enjoy it. Even if you end up watching on the replay, please do me a favor. Share it to your timeline. There are other people that are huge Carolina Panther fans, just like yourself, that would love this show, enjoy this show, and want to watch it just like you. Also on the bottom, we gave you our Twitter handle so that you can join Twitter at Larry Frankus and get all the latest updated news and tweets from the world of sports. Incredible, incredible, and incredible. Now, Washington Redskins, I still called them the Redskins. I knew that was going to happen tonight. Washington football team. You know, here's a team that going into last weekend lost 4 games in a row. Then they go into Tampa Bay and they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, was Tampa Bay that bad or was Washington that good? You know, you just don't know. But at the end of the day, here's a team that went in and beat the Super Bowl champs last week. Now, the Washington Redskins, guys, if you want to compare them to your Carolina Panthers, the Washington football team, excuse me, I'll get that down, averages 20.6 points a game, about the same as your Carolina Panthers. But on the flip side of it, they allow 27.3 points a game, where the Panthers are 6th in the NFL, only allowing 19.3. Washington has 19 sacks, their defense on the year. The Panthers, 27 sacks. Now, quarterback Taylor Heineke has been sacked 14 times. Defense, if you're listening, I know some of you Carolina Panthers, the team, listens to my show as I share it with you, but if Burns is listening, or Boris is listening, if Shaq Thompson is listening, listen to what I'm saying. They've been sacked 14 times in the last 3 games. If you're not drooling like an American Bulldog, I don't know why. It's going to be unbelievable opportunity for this defense, I would not be surprised if they got 5 or 6 more sacks this upcoming Sunday versus the Washington football team. Now, versus Tampa Bay, Trevor Heineke was pretty good. 26 of 32, 256 yards, a touchdown, but he has thrown no interceptions. But on the year, guys, listen to this defense. Trevor Heineke has thrown 9 interceptions and has fumbled the ball 4 times. This is a Washington football team that has trouble holding on to the football, as Antonio Gibson, their running back, also has 4 fumbles on the year, but he might not be playing this weekend. We will have to find out as the week goes on. But also, this Carolina team is not a great rushing team. Not a very good rushing team. I talked about Antonio Gibson. He's only averaging, I say only, 3.7 yards a carry. Meanwhile, wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who is probably the only guy on this team that might scare me, was limited in practice today. So we'll ask Couch Coach when he comes on what's the status of some of these players. But he has 4 touchdowns, 49 receptions. But this is a banged-up Washington team. Chase Young's out, Bosa's out, and several other players are, beat up on this team. Now, their running back also, McKissick. Oh, can't get it. McKissick. Oh, gosh, I apologize about that. He does have the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So he is a double threat where he can run the ball sporadically, but he also has 37 receptions on the year for them. And we talked about reunions with the coaches, Cam Newton coming back. Well, let's not forget the field goal kicker for the Washington football team, Joey Sly, second time he's facing us this year. So far for the Redskins this year, if you wanted to know, if you're asked, what has he done? 3 for 3 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. Now, this defense is banged up, folks, and I'll say that again. This defense for Washington is beat up, but they still, Chase Young, I told you, was out. I think he torn his ACL last week. Bosa's out, but they got a couple of guys that have done pretty well. Linebacker Cole Holcomb, 78 tackles. Jonathan Allen, the defensive tackle, has 6 sacks. Levon Collins, 57 tackles at safety, and they got 2 decent cornerbacks in Kendall Fuller and Bobby McClain. Fuller, 47 tackles, 8 pass deflections. McClain has 36 tackles, 5 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions. So this is a little stingy of a defense, but it's really, really banged up. They have to go with a lot of young guys right now due to the fact that, these guys are injured. But when you look at this game, and we'll talk about the keys of the game later on in the show, right after we have our interview with Chris Couch Coach Powell, which should be coming up in about 7 minutes. But after we talk to him, we'll do the keys to the game. We're going to break down these keys to the game just like we do every single week. And boy, we couldn't have been more accurate, folks, huh? For those of you that watched us last week, every single point we discussed was hit on last week. Now, a lot of you would say, well, Larry, the key to the game is just play like you did last week. Well, it's different. You're a different team, different defensive schemes, different offensive schemes. It's easy to say that, but at the end of the day, you got to play within yourself. And we talked about that with Cam earlier in the show, not trying to do much. He does not have to prove anything to anyone, okay, unless it's maybe himself. But at the end of the day, when you got the weapons that this Carolina Panther team has on the offense side of the football, they should be performing at a lot higher level than they did the first 9 games and like they did last game. One of the good things about last week, what did we do, folks? We got in the red zone and we scored. Zane Gonzalez, 4 field goals, special teams player of the week. Congratulations, Zane, on winning that award. but just a great, great game. This is a game where if you play your style of game, there shouldn't be much of a guess or much of an, a surprise on what happens by the time this game is over. But I want to say this, and I want to say this again to all my listeners out there, whether you're Washington football team fans, whether you're Carolina Panther fans, or fans of any other team in the league, this is an NFL football team. This is a team that lost 4 games, went into Tampa last week, and basically destroyed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the former Super Bowl champions. And I tell people every single week when we're on a show, I don't care who you play. It is an NFL football team, and on any given Sunday, Thursday, or Monday night, any team can beat any other team. It's who prepares the best and who executes the game plan. You could have a better game plan than the other team, but if you don't execute it, it doesn't do you any good. Execution is the key to success. We can sit here and talk all day about what Taylor Heineke needs to do to beat Carolina. We can talk all day about what Cam Newton and this offense needs to do to beat Washington. But at the end of the day, the team that executes on every single play, it's not the team, and I know if you're a Washington fan, you completely understand this. It's not the team that has the best 11 on offense or the best 11 on defense. It's the team that has the best 53 on the entire team that wins or lose games. Why is this team starting to play well? Look at depth. I cannot use a more important word in the NFL than the word depth. And right now, there are so many teams making excuses in the NFL, like the Cardinals did, last week without Kyle Murray. Well, it's not our fault you don't have depth. Oh, by the way, Cardinal fans, I said it earlier if you're listening. You said you didn't have your starting quarterback last week. Did anybody look at that game and watch that game and realize either did the Carolina Panthers? They didn't have their starting quarterback. They had P.J. Walker, who I give a lot of praise and a lot of credit to, that played an exceptional game and deserves a lot of credit and probably will be the backup quarterback. Sam Darnold, I don't want to get on a whole topic here, but he could be on his way out here in Carolina before you know it. Let's go ahead and take a quick 15-state. Let's take a full commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have Couch Coach joining us to talk about the Washington football team. We'll be back right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I'm looking around and I'm saying, I need to become part of a Carolina Panthers group that stays positive even in these tough times. And I'll tell you what, boy, have I found a group, the Carolina Panthers Den. It's on Facebook and you need to join today. This is a group that stays positive, has a good time, and interacts with a lot of other different Carolina Panthers fans. If you want to have a great time and talk about your team, encourage your team in a way that is done very professionally, then become a member of the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. You are listening to Frankly Speaking Panthers on Tobacco Road Sports Radio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Panthers. I'm your host, Larry Frank, and it is a great honor, thrill, and pleasure, as always. Guy's been on many of my shows. I've been on his shows before, and just a great, great friend of Frankly Speaking Panthers. Let's welcome in Chris Couch Coach Powell. He's the host of Couch Coach Live, and actually covers the Washington football team. How ironic. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, Larry. How you been? It's been a long time. How you been?
I'm doing good, buddy. I tell you what, you didn't have a beard the last time I saw you.
Right. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. First of all, thanks for joining us as always on
Yeah.
Frankly Speaking Panthers. And when you look at this game, Coach, already I look at this game, and the one thing, there's a lot of storylines here that would not necessarily be here if it wasn't for a couple of different personnels being on each team. But the first one, obviously, Washington fans know, is the return of Ron Rivera. Coming back to Charlotte, a team he coached for 2011, 2019. I mean, it's got to be a little extra ammunition with Coach coming back, wanting to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny to bring this up, but the nail in the coffin was when we went in 2019 and beat them, and ultimately that was one of the kind of the side factors of them getting rid of Ron Rivera. And I found it so amazing in his exit press conference. There was a lot of people who there was not a lot of dry eyes in that room that day, and it just shows you how much he meant to that organization. And then you can even see how that carries over here with the Washington football team, where you look at those guys, they love Ron Rivera. He's a guy that I think he's a guy that's easy to love, and a guy that you really want to fight for.
Yeah, now, one of the things, and I guess Washington is now going through it as well, is boy, oh boy, has the injury plug really affected this Carolina team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And lately, a lot of the offensive players are banged up too. We know Chase Young is out. We know Bosa is out, but we heard McLaurin, Gibson, Seal Jones are all banged up as well. What's the latest on the injury report out of Washington?
At this point, it's still touch and go with Terry. I think for the most part, I think he'll be able to play Sunday from what I've been hearing. I know Antonio Gibson been having that shin injury, so it looks like it's going to be something that's probably just going to linger throughout, and he'll probably just play through it. Last time I checked about Ricky Seal Jones, I think he was questionable, but that injury did look pretty bad on Sunday when he got injured against Tampa. So, and everything is just, and it's like week in and week out. You got other guys like De'Ami Brown, who's been kind of in and out the lineup, and then a guy who potentially would have been a part of this homecoming, and Curtis Samuel, which unfortunately he won't be playing next week. So it's just one of those things where it's just, like I said, injury bug. It is November, and it's just it's biting everybody, unfortunately.
When you look at first of all, before we go into this game, last week the Washington ends up playing Tampa Bay. Washington going into that game lost 4 in a row, and they go in and they win the game. Trevor Heineke played a decent game, no mistakes in that game. I mean, what was it about last week where Washington was able to defeat the Super Bowl champs?
And the funny thing about it, because as you talking about, we covered the team. I watched the Football Guys podcast, and it's funny that week in and week out, we kind of seen this potential in this team where we looked at this as a situation where we were looking for an all cylinders type of game where you won the offense, defense, and special teams. This team is weird because they finally. It's almost like this team should have been like this from the jump. I think with Taylor Heineke's situation, where I think a lot of it, he had to be in that position where he had to have a lead so he can make smart plays and be very conservative with the football. I think sometimes I look at Scott Turner. Sometimes I think he looks at him like almost he does too much for him in a sense. I think Taylor, if he plays within the confines, just be a game manager. You've seen that, and a lot of times we've been down a lot this year, so you see a lot of kind of plays from Taylor where it's like it seems unorthodox. But I think him as a quarterback in his nature is like, look, I need to make a play, and everything came into play. The defense showed up surprisingly. And it's funny because we looked at that situation where it was like we even said it last week. Like we were bringing a plastic knife to a gunfight when we were playing Tampa Bay, just due to the simple fact of our pass defense has been horrible, and Tampa Bay going in as number one pass offense in this league. They stepped up, got timely turnovers. William Jackson, Bobby McClain stepped up, and surprisingly, and it's weird because the I call it the calling card of this team was going to be getting the pressure on quarterbacks and getting sacks. Tom Brady didn't even get sacked last week. He had 0 sacks and 1 quarterback hit on him, and it's just one of those things where it's kind of like it's almost like it feels like it's about damn time that this team finally kind of came into this. So I mean, it was one of those victories where it's like it gives you momentum. It gives you hope. It's almost like I felt this team could be this way if they play their game like this, and especially in that type of spot, it's really encouraging.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And now, they played the number 1 defense. This week they get to play the number 2 defense in the NFL. So another tough game for them. But, one thing a lot of people don't realize is we're past the halfway mark in the season. There's only 7 games left for some teams, 8 games left in the season. And believe it or not, for both teams here, this is a big game because I know it sounds funny, 7 games left, and we're talking about playoff implications already, but this is a game where if Washington doesn't win, it could knock them out of the playoff picture. And if the Panthers do win, it can solidify not only that last spot, but a lot of people don't realize now with Cam Newton back, the energy back, and if the offense can get going like this defense has been playing at that kind of level, guess what? You're a game and a half behind Tampa Bay, the Panthers are, and they play the Buccaneers the last 2 out of 3 games of the year. So they could control their own destiny. But this does have playoff implications.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because now the way I'm projecting how it could be, you literally can have a 9-8 team be that 7th spot in the NFC potentially. So you look at if you go down the line and just and theoretically, if Washington wins, they're 4-6, Carolina's 5-6.
Right.
So if there's a situation where there's a tiebreaker, Washington bumps up. And so it's big time. And then I think if Washington loses, they'll be at 3-7. They're pretty much their playoff hopes would be pretty much on life support at this point. It would be a lot of other factors that will help them get in. They wouldn't be able to control their destiny. I think at this point at 7 with 7 losses at this point. And in Carolina, they go 6-5. I mean, it could be a run, like you said. And now you look at what Tampa Bay has done. You're really in striking distance. What we was thinking that it was going to be a 1-team race in the NFC South. It might be 2. It might be Carolina and Tampa Bay vying for that for the conference championship, and then also not to mention New Orleans as well. So it's a pivotal game. This is almost, especially for Washington, this is almost if they want any type of semblance or any type of playoff aspirations, this is where it really begins.
Now, let me ask you this. You talked about the pass and defense, how difficult of a time they've had for Washington. Now it looks like Cam Newton's going to start here, which is probably not a surprise to anyone, this weekend. Not only do you have Cam to worry about with all those, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of weapons on this offense with, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, who's unbelievable this year, the tight end of Tommy Tremble, not to mention the 3 dual back of McCaffrey, Hubbard, and Abdullah now. I mean, this is a team that, thank goodness for them, wants to run the ball 35 plus times in a game. But this is a game where if this running game of Carolina gets going, it could be a long day for Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing too, where you look at it where I think one of our biggest issues, well, not issues, but I think one of the situations I don't want us to be facing is putting you guys in the red zone. Because I think then you're susceptible to so many different types of weapons where you really got to worry about Cam, the run threat, the pass threat, and all kinds of different threats. CMC in the backfield can, it's a good receiver. He can, I call him the Swiss Army knife. So it's definitely gonna be a daunting task. You just, it's one of the things where you just hope that you can contain them. And like we say, the biggest thing is, our third down defense, what can we do? Can we get you guys off the field? Because I think that's really ultimately our biggest, what we can do. If we were to be successful in this game, we got to keep you guys off the field. Because like you said, once that run game comes, that's what's going to happen. You're gonna slow the game down. It's going to give us less opportunities to score, and they'll control the clock, and you don't want that, especially in this type of situation. And if it gets to a point where they're behind, I mean, you pretty much can guarantee a win for the Panthers, because I think that's,
And the
yeah.
Panthers are second in the NFL in handling time of possession, like you
Yep.
mentioned. So they know the key. Carolina knows the key to winning is keeping your defense off the field, not on
Yep.
the field. Keep them fresh, keep them energized,
Yep.
and keep them ready to go. But one other issue that I've noticed with Washington, you talked about the defense, but what I noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, is they have a bad tendency to turn the ball over. You got Heineke, who's thrown 9 interceptions this year. He also has 4 fumbles, and Antonio Gibson, who is banged up a little bit as well this week, also has 4 fumbles. This is going to be a game where they can't afford to make those type of mistakes if they plan on winning.
Big time. And I think, especially for this team, they're really, you look at just from them offensive standpoint, where you really don't get a lot of cracks at, as far as being able to score. I mean, you look at this, prior to the Tampa Bay situation, mustering 10 points against Denver, 10 points against Green Bay. Turnovers are crucial, and those turnovers can lead to points. They can lead to, the situations where your offense is going to be productive. And I think that's one thing too, where Washington really has to limit those type of turnovers. You look at even in that game against Tampa, where we was able to get those turnovers off of Tom Brady, and those led to scoring opportunities for us. And we just can't ill afford it because we're just so limited offensively. So to me, it's almost like you really have to play a mistake-free football, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And when you look at another issue with this team is that offensive line of Washington in the last 3 games has given up 14 sacks on Taylor Heineke.
Yep.
14 sacks. Yep. I mean, you're going against the number 2 defense in all of football that is, I believe, 4th in the league in sacks with 27 this year. This offensive line also has their work cut out for them.
Yeah, big time. And like to what you just alluded to earlier, I mean, he had 5 sacks last week, and it's one of the things where you look at it, and credit to Taylor, man. Taylor's tough. Taylor's a guy, with Carolina. I mean, hey, you might get him. You may not get him on that first hit. If you get that second hit, then you might get a chance. But I tell you that Taylor Heineke is tough, and it's funny because initially, our offensive line was probably one of our best units on this team. I mean, as far as when you look at it from a statistical standpoint, and then they've kind of wavered. But of course, we've had injuries, obviously. Ryan Sheriff kind of been in and out the lineup. Sam Cosme has been out. So you look at those type of situations where hopefully they can limit those sacks, because that's another, situation where you lose some yardage on those plays, and you can have a situation where it could be a 3rd and short, could turn a 3rd and long with a sack, or or what have you. Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest deals. And I think you look at, especially now, we got like a guy like Hassan Reddick, who's almost 10 sacks this season. It's a daunting task.
Yeah, and when you look at this Carolina defense, their first in passing defense second in rushing defense. Okay.
Yep.
So we talk about the difficult time. They just came from playing Tampa Bay. But the one thing that could help Washington in this game that has yet to be done this entire season is for them to score on their first drive. The Panthers have not given up a score on the first drive the entire season. But when you look at this team, what you know the defense, you know what they bring, you know how energized they are. What do you think Ron Rivera's game plan needs to be for the football team?
Fight hard. Honestly, a lot of it too. Make sure that you convert on third downs. Like last week, we were 11 for 19.
Yep.
Convert on third down. Get the scoring opportunities. Get turnovers. This defense has to be physical. They have to be in your face. Limit those big plays. I know big plays are going to happen, but we don't need situations that we've had before where we just get gashed. I think I look at those situations. Limit CMC and limit Cam Newton, and and the credit of Joe Brady, what he's doing, this is offensive coordinator, what he's doing and making these innovative plays, and just to me, condense it, get up early, and let Taylor Heineke just be conservative and let him do what the defense gives him. I think that's his biggest thing, and I hope, and then my biggest hope for Scott Turner, I don't want him to turn Taylor into a hero ball, or AKA Brett Favre. Like, don't this, for some odd reason, for Scott Turner, I feel like he's almost like a risk it or biscuit when it comes to Taylor, where it's just like I think he really wanna make this work. But I want him to be smart in his matchup. Take what the defense give you. Don't go over the assignment, in my personal opinion. So I just look at it from Taylor's need to be smart, move the football, almost similar to that fourth quarter drive, and and just get some scoring opportunities, and so that's one of my biggest things. I think they just need to convert on third downs, be smart on defense, try to limit Cam and them in the red zone, because I think the red zone is going to be really a dangerous spot for them if we put them in the red zone, because I think, especially in that condensed field, they can have a field day on us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one part of the game that it's definitely going to come down to, there's no if, and, or buts, is how well Carolina's offensive line can play against Washington's defensive line. We know the offensive line has underachieved this year. Last week, they were brilliant, opening up holes everywhere. Cam was back. They were energized versus Arizona. But in order for Washington to win, they're going to have to be able to get pressure, not just get pressure on Cam Newton, but they're going to have to, I use the word, contain him as well. Because you and I both know if Cam doesn't pass, he does have the ability to use those legs as well. People say Cam, he's old. Cam's 32 years old. He has time yet, okay? But and he's probably the healthiest he's been in 3 years.
That is true. And like you said, a lot of people don't understand. This isn't like, the former NFL where we look at guys in their 30s as if like they're like ancient. But we got guys like Brady, Rodgers, who are MVPs in this league over the past, over 30 years old. Yep. And Cam is another one, like you said, and he's healthy as well. He's probably the healthiest he's ever been, probably coming out of Auburn at this point.
Yep. All right, my friend, before we let you go, prediction.
Okay. I think, unfortunately, and I think we're gonna take an L this week. I definitely think the Panthers are gonna take care of business. I think we're gonna fall a little bit short. I think I got it 21-17 Panthers. I think we'll fall a little bit short, and Ron's homecoming, unfortunately.
All right, my friend. Well, as always, it's a pleasure having you on. I know we'll be doing this again soon. So, like I said, thank you so much for coming on Frankly Speaking Panthers tonight.
Appreciate it.
All right, my friend. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Take care, buddy.
All right.
All right, that was Chris Couch Coach Powell, host of Couch Coach Live. He covers the Washington football team. When we come back, folks, the moment you've been waiting for, one of our best segments of every single show is the keys to a Panther win this weekend versus the Washington football team. We'll be back right after this. You are listening to Frankly Speaking Panthers on Tobacco Road Sports Radio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I'm looking around and I'm saying, I need to become part of a Carolina Panthers group that stays positive even in these tough times. And I'll tell you what, boy, have I found a group, the Carolina Panthers Den. It's on Facebook and you need to join today. This is a group that stays positive, has a good time, and interacts with a lot of other different Carolina Panthers fans. If you want to have a great time and talk about your team, encourage your team in a way that is done very professionally, then become a member of the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. Make sure to join today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Panthers. I'm your host, Larry Frank. Once again, want to remind you on several different platforms throughout the entire country, even, believe it or not, even in other countries. So want to thank the people on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, on Carolina Panthers Den, and also Twitch for having us live tonight, and also my good buddies from Tobacco Road Sports Radio.com. We are so happy, so proud to be part of such a great network like Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now comes the time when we talk about the keys to us having a victory this upcoming weekend versus the Washington football team. And, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about it in some length before we wrap up the show. But the first thing you got to do is exactly what you did last week. You got to run, and run some more. Last week, 35-plus touches for the Panthers running back. I believe Hubbard had 9 touches. Abdullah had over 9 touches when you include the passes. We all know what McCaffrey did last week. This is a team that wins and dies by the run, and they should be able to have a lot of success against this weakened, injury-prone Washington defensive line. Our offensive line, just like they did last week, they need to show up. They need to put those big boy pants back on, the same exact ones they wore last week, and go out there and play the type of game. See, this is what happens, folks, when you have a game like you did last week versus one of the best teams in the NFL. The Cardinals were 8-1, now 8-2, and you play at that level that offensive line played at. You have not proven, not just to yourselves, but to everyone around you on that team and around this nation, that you can play at a very, very high level. But you can't be inconsistent and play 1 week good, 1 week bad. You have a quarterback. He's part of your family, and your job is to protect your family member, and you got to do the same exact thing. Same exact thing. Keep opening up those holes for a Christian. Keep protecting the quarterback. And it's a lot easier when you're mixing it up to help those offensive linemen. The other thing is, Cam needs to realize that he does not need to do too much. He has plenty of weapons. It's not win or lose with Cam. Cam has the pieces around him that he needs, that he didn't have in New England, to be successful. Now he just needs to take a deep breath and play the game the way he knows how to play, and he'll be fine. Handing the ball off to Christian McCaffrey and the running back, throwing some short passes out of the backfield to Abdullah or Christian McCaffrey, going ahead and then using his tight ends. Like I said earlier, I think you see either Ian Thomas or Tommy Tremble really bust out this weekend with Cam at quarterback, and that'll open up, the running game will open up some opportunities deep, where I wouldn't be surprised if Cam once or twice hits Robbie Anderson and even Terrence Marshall Jr. this week for some touchdown passes. Last week, unbelievable with time of possession. And we talked about this many times on this show, folks. We talk about time of possession battle. If your offense is on the field, sustaining long drives like they did last week, running the ball, not just running the ball, but running it effectively and being able to convert on third down conversions, your defense is going to be off the field a lot more than they're on the field. And by being off the field, they have time to re-energize, to stay fresh, to get that blow of air they need. So when they get back out there, they're fired up like they were last weekend. Don't be surprised, guys. 5 or 6 sacks this weekend would be is not even a question on Taylor Heineke this weekend, and maybe a couple of interceptions by the quarterback as well. This is a tough defense. I consider it one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL, and they will prove that again this weekend. And while we're on that, we talk about that defensive line and Hassan Reddick also out there, and Shaq Thompson. I mean, this is an aggressive defense. They swarm the ball. They got to create turnover, but this game needs to be won in the trenches. Our offensive line, I already talked about, needs to come to play, and defensive line needs to come to play as well. If both sides of these footballs go ahead and win this battle, there is no question about it what's going to happen in this game. Win the turnover battle. We already know about that. Okay, in this case, I would say let's not be foolish. Cam, once again, don't do too much. Don't try to force the ball in. You got a lot of weapons. Let's go ahead and not turn the ball over, and we will be fine. Third down efficiency was great last week. I believe we were 7 of 15 versus the Cardinals. We need to play similar. When you can go on first and second down and get big yardage like Christian was able to do last week, running the ball, it gives you a lot of different opportunities on second and third down where you can run different plays, and your third down is minimized to short yardage, where when you have a McCaffrey in the backfield and it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, and you have Cam Newton back there with legs as well, there's no doubt you're going to make third down conversions. The last key to this game, folks, is reduce the penalties. I would say that's the only thing last week that really, really disappointed me. If there was anything, you can't have 9 penalties. What was it last week? We had 9 penalties for 115 yards. A couple of runs by Christian, big runs, were called back due to either holding or illegal procedure or whatever the heck it was. But at the end of the day, I know Daly had a couple of penalties in that game. Did not play a great game. I thought when Brady Christensen went in, he did a fabulous job solidifying that offensive line that game and allowing them to do things right. But reduce penalties. Don't put yourself in a position where you're penalizing your team when they are out there gaining huge yards. It's frustrating, it's demoralizing, and it can take a lot out of you. So I would say reduce the penalties. So, folks, I'm predicting to win this weekend. I don't know how close, but, once again, I don't see why this team with this offense can't once again score over 30 points. I'd be surprised if they don't score over 30 points versus this team, if not more. I think this game, I know Washington beat Tampa Bay. They're on a high from that, but I don't see them playing close. Maybe 31-10 again this weekend. Want to thank Chris Coach Powell for joining us tonight on Frankly Speaking Panthers. On behalf of myself and my entire staff, let's go, Panthers. Keep pounding. Let's bring a win here, and let's go 6-5. Good night.